Nobody expected what happened when researchers finally sent a drone inside the Titanic wreck. The mission was supposed to be routine documentation, map the deteriorating interior, collect scientific data, maybe grab some footage for marine archaeology journals. Instead, they captured something that's keeping the entire research team awake at night. The breakthrough came after years of technological development. Previous expeditions could only observe the Titanic from the outside, circling the wreck like vultures around a carcass. But this new generation of micro-drones changed everything. Small enough to slip through gaps in the twisted hull, sophisticated enough to navigate the ship's maze-like interior. What started as a straightforward research mission became a journey into the supernatural. The drone's high-definition cameras began transmitting footage that defied logical explanation. Rooms where objects had been carefully arranged by unknown hands. Corridors where temperature readings spiked without any heat source. Audio recordings of sounds that marine experts can't identify. The footage spread through the scientific community like wildfire. Marine biologists, underwater archaeologists, even paranormal researchers demanded access to the raw data. But the research team has released only fragments, claiming the full footage is too disturbing for public consumption. The expedition leader made a chilling admission. "We sent that drone down to study a shipwreck. What we found was something else entirely. Something that's been waiting in those depths for over a century." Hit that like and subscribe button now, because what this drone discovered inside the Titanic will make you question everything you thought you knew about what happens to the dead in the deep ocean. The drone that entered the Titanic wasn't some toy submarine. This was a $2 million engineering marvel built specifically for the most extreme environment on Earth. At 12,500 feet down, the pressure is 380 times greater than what we feel at sea level, enough to instantly crush a human body. Every component had to be titanium reinforced. The camera housing used military-grade sapphire glass that could withstand a tank running over it. Yet this technological masterpiece was small enough to slip through openings barely 3 feet wide. The drone's LED array could illuminate a football field, but in the Titanic's twisted corridors, the lights created something far more sinister. Dancing shadows that played tricks with the mind. What looked like debris in one frame appeared to move in the next. Navigation required split-second precision. The Titanic isn't just a sunken ship. It's a death trap of collapsed decks, twisted metal, and rooms that could collapse at any moment. One wrong move could trap the drone forever in the same grave that claimed so many lives. But the real challenge wasn't technical. It was psychological. The operators controlling the drone from the surface had to steel themselves against the overwhelming presence of death that permeated every frame of footage. The mission's lead researcher admitted the psychological toll. "You're not just exploring a shipwreck. You're trespassing in a cathedral of human suffering." The drone's first major discovery stopped the entire research team cold. The grand staircase, once the crown jewel of first-class luxury, had become something from a nightmare. The ornate wood had long since rotted away, leaving only skeletal iron railings that twisted up into the darkness like the arms of drowning victims. But it was what the drone's lights revealed in that space that sent chills through everyone watching. Scattered across what remained of the staircase were personal effects that told the story of panic and desperation. Jewelry scattered like stars across the debris field, torn clothing caught on twisted metal, and floating in the water column, pieces of the ship that defied every law of physics. The drone captured footage of objects suspended in the water as if frozen in time. A gentleman's pocket watch, its chain still intact, hovering motionless in the current. A lady's glove, perfectly preserved, floating exactly where it might have slipped from a desperate hand reaching for salvation. But the most disturbing discovery was the pattern of debris. Forensic analysis revealed that many personal items weren't randomly scattered. They were arranged in formations that suggested people had tried to create barriers, desperate attempts to block rising water, or find air pockets. The grand staircase had become a killing field where the ship's elite discovered that money couldn't buy survival. What the drone captured wasn't just visual, it was audio that defied explanation. The Titanic should be silent, except for the drone's mechanical hum and occasional settling of metal. Instead, the hydrophones picked up something that made the research team question their sanity. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the time the Titanic's lights went out forever, the drone's audio sensors recorded what sounded like voices, not the groaning of metal or the whistle of current through broken bulkheads. Voices. Sound engineers analyzed the recordings for weeks. The frequencies were wrong for natural underwater acoustics. The patterns suggested human communication, but in languages that couldn't be identified. Some team members swore they could make out words: help, mother, cold. A marine acoustics specialist tried to explain, sound travels differently at these depths, but what we're hearing shouldn't be possible. It's as if the water itself has memory. The voices weren't constant. They emerged only when the drone entered specific areas: the dining rooms, passenger cabins, and most intensely, near the ship's band room, where musicians played "Nearer My God to Thee" as the ship sank. When the drone entered cabin B-58, the entire research team fell silent. The room was intact in ways that shouldn't be possible after 110 years underwater, and what they found inside challenged everything science understands about deep-sea preservation. The cabin belonged to the Sage family. All 11 members perished when the ship sank, but their possessions remained arranged exactly as if the family had just stepped out for dinner. Clothes still hung in the wardrobe, swaying gently in the current like ghostly occupants. A child's teddy bear sat propped against pillows on what remained of a small bed. Its button eyes stared directly into the drone's camera, creating footage so unsettling that several team members refused to watch it. But the most disturbing discovery was the family's dining table, still set for a meal that was never finished. Plates remained in position, silverware arranged precisely, even a napkin folded beside each setting. The cold, oxygen-free environment had preserved everything with museum-like precision. The drone's thermal imaging revealed that the cabin maintained a different temperature than surrounding areas, several degrees warmer, as if some source of heat still lingered. No scientific explanation exists for this phenomenon. A marine archaeologist described the experience. It's like the room is waiting for them to come back. The preservation is so complete, it feels more like trespassing in someone's home than exploring a century-old wreck. The drone's most heart-wrenching discovery came in a narrow corridor on the ship's lower decks. What the team found there would haunt them forever and reveal the true horror of the Titanic's final moments. The hallway was filled with children's belongings, not randomly scattered, but arranged in small piles as if someone had carefully gathered them. Dolls, toy soldiers, picture books, and small shoes, all preserved in the frigid water like an underwater memorial. But it was the way these items were arranged that troubled investigators. The toys formed distinct patterns, almost like shrines or protective circles. Child psychologists studying the footage suggested these arrangements indicated children had been left alone in this corridor while adults dealt with the crisis above. The drone's lights revealed something even more disturbing. Tiny handprints pressed into the silt on the corridor walls, preserved at child height, exactly where small hands might have touched the walls while walking in darkness. A forensic archaeologist broke down while reviewing the footage. These children spent their final moments in this dark corridor, trying to make sense of what was happening. They arranged their toys like talismans against the terror. Among the toys, the drone discovered something that stopped the mission cold. A small leather diary, its pages somehow still intact, with a child's handwriting visible through the transparent preservation chamber the team deployed. The final entry, dated April 14th, 1912, contained just 4 words that summarized the ultimate horror. The water is coming. When the drone descended into the Titanic's engine room, it entered a mechanical hell, frozen in time. The massive engines that once powered humanity's greatest ship had become monuments to mankind's hubris and something far more sinister. The drone's lights revealed that the engines hadn't simply rusted away like other parts of the ship. They remained remarkably intact, their massive pistons and drive wheels preserved in the cold depths like the skeleton of some mechanical beast. But what horrified engineers studying the footage was evidence of the crew's final, desperate battle to save the ship. Tool marks on pipes showed frantic attempts to redirect steam pressure. Emergency valves had been manually cranked open by hand, their wheels still turned to maximum position. Most disturbing were the human elements still visible in the engine room. Work gloves draped over valve wheels, a lunch pail sitting on a workbench, its contents preserved. An engineer's cap hanging from a pipe as if its owner had just stepped away. The drone captured footage of the ship's telegraph system, still pointing to full astern. The final command, given to the engine room as officers tried desperately to avoid the iceberg. The mechanical evidence told the story of men who stayed at their posts, following orders even as death water rose around them. The chief marine engineer reviewing the footage observed, "These men died trying to save everyone else." The engine room shows they fought until the very end, keeping power running for the lights and radio as long as possible. The drone's exploration of the ship's bridge area revealed Captain Edward Smith's final moments through artifacts that survived over a century underwater. What the footage showed contradicted popular myths and revealed the true character of the man who went down with his ship. In the captain's cabin, the drone discovered Smith's personal effects still arranged on his desk. Navigation instruments, a partially written letter to his wife, and most remarkably, his captain's log with entries from the final day. The log's last readable entry, preserved in waterproof ink, showed Smith's growing concern about ice warnings throughout April 14th. Contrary to popular belief that he ignored danger, the evidence showed a captain increasingly worried about conditions but pressured to maintain schedule. The drone captured footage of the ship's wheelhouse where Smith would have given his final orders. The brass ship's wheel remained intact, positioned hard to port, evidence of the desperate attempt to avoid the iceberg. Most poignant was the discovery of Smith's uniform jacket, still hanging in his cabin where he'd left it before going to the bridge for the final time. The gold braiding and buttons remained pristine, creating a ghostly impression of the man who wore it. A maritime historian noted, "The preservation of these personal items gives us intimate access to the captain's final day." This wasn't a reckless captain. This was a man making impossible decisions under incredible pressure. Perhaps the most scientifically baffling discovery from the drone's exploration wasn't human artifacts, it was the life forms thriving inside the Titanic's wreck in ways that challenge everything marine biologists understand about deep-sea ecosystems. The drone's cameras captured footage of complex marine colonies that have made the wreck their home. But these weren't typical deep-sea creatures. These organisms displayed characteristics that shouldn't exist at crushing depths with no sunlight and minimal food sources. A marine biologist studying the footage was astounded. We're seeing biodiversity levels comparable to shallow reef systems. At 12,500 feet down, this level of life shouldn't be possible. The creatures seemed to concentrate around areas where human tragedy was greatest. The densest populations appeared in passenger corridors, dining rooms, and crew quarters, as if they were drawn to the sites where life had ended most dramatically. Most mysterious were bioluminescent organisms that appeared to respond to the drone's presence. When the drone's lights illuminated certain areas, the creatures would pulse with coordinated light patterns that resembled communication or recognition. Some organisms displayed behaviors that defied known marine biology. Fish species that should flee from artificial light instead approached the drone, swimming in formations that suggested curiosity rather than fear. The footage revealed entire ecosystems that have evolved using the ship's structure in unprecedented ways, creating biological communities that exist nowhere else on Earth. We're approaching the most terrifying discoveries, but first hit that like button if this deep-sea exploration is opening your eyes to the mysteries still hidden in our oceans. The drone's final major discovery left the entire research team speechless and questioning everything they thought they knew about the Titanic wreck. In the ship's first-class lounge, the drone captured footage of something that shouldn't exist after 110 years underwater. Objects had been arranged in deliberate patterns, not scattered by current or decay, but carefully positioned in formations that suggested intelligence and intention. Personal belongings formed geometric shapes across the lounge floor, circles of jewelry, lines of shoes, triangular arrangements of dinner plates. The patterns were too precise to be natural, too complex to be coincidental. Someone or something had been arranging these objects with purpose and planning. But who could have done this at the bottom of the ocean? A marine archaeologist studied the formations for months. The mathematical precision suggests human intelligence, but the underwater preservation and arrangement span decades. We're seeing evidence of ongoing activity in a place where no human could survive. The drone captured even more disturbing evidence: objects that had been moved between visits. Comparing footage from previous expeditions showed that some arrangements had been modified, expanded, or completely redesigned over the years. Most chilling was the discovery of messages spelled out using debris and personal effects. Letters arranged to form words like remember, cold, and home. Communications from the deep that no living person could have created. The implications terrify researchers. Either unknown human activity is occurring at impossible depths, or something else entirely is preserving and honoring the memory of those who died. The drone's exploration revealed a heartbreaking truth: the Titanic is dying. The ship that survived 110 years in the depths is now deteriorating at an accelerated rate, and scientists are racing against time to document what remains before it's lost forever. Bacteria colonies are consuming the iron hull at unprecedented speeds. Sections that were intact just decades ago have collapsed into unrecognizable debris fields. The drone captured footage of decks pancaking downward, crushing the artifacts and memories they once protected. The ship's iconic superstructure is becoming increasingly unstable. Engineers analyzing the drone footage predict that major sections could collapse within the next 20 years, obliterating forever the physical evidence of one of history's most significant disasters. The wreck's original discoverer reviewing the new footage. The Titanic is vanishing before our eyes. Every year we delay, we lose more of the ship and the stories it holds. The race isn't just against natural decay. Deep-sea mining interests and treasure hunters continue pressuring for more aggressive exploration that could accelerate the wreck's destruction. The drone mission represents perhaps the last opportunity to document the ship's interior before critical sections are lost forever. Each dive becomes more precious as time runs out for the underwater monument that has preserved over a century of human history. As the drone completed its terrifying journey through the Titanic's ghostly corridors, it left behind more than just footage. It documented a truth that will haunt everyone who sees it. The ship isn't just a wreck, it's a living memorial where the past refuses to die. The personal belongings still arranged with care. The voices captured on audio that science can't explain. The life forms that thrive in impossible conditions. The objects rearranged by unknown hands over decades of deep-sea vigil. These discoveries prove that some tragedies are too profound to simply fade away. The Titanic continues to tell its story through every preserved artifact, every floating fragment of a life cut short, every mysterious sign that something still watches over the 1,500 souls who never made it home. The drone revealed that death at the bottom of the ocean doesn't end the story, it preserves it. The ship has become an underwater cathedral where memory takes physical form and the past maintains its grip on the present. But perhaps most terrifying is the realization that we're not just observers of this underwater grave. We're participants in its ongoing story. Every expedition, every camera, every light that penetrates those depths becomes part of the Titanic's eternal narrative. The footage captured by the drone will outlive the ship itself. When the last deck collapses and the final artifact crumbles, these images will remain as testimony to humanity's greatest maritime disaster and the mysteries that still lurk in the deep. The Titanic rests in darkness, but its story lives on in the light of technology that allows us to witness horrors preserved beneath the waves. Reminders that some human experiences transcend death itself. If this underwater exploration has left you mesmerized and terrified, subscribe for more deep-sea mysteries that science can't explain. Share this with others brave enough to confront the truth about what really lies beneath our oceans. Like if you believe some stories are too powerful to stay buried at the bottom of the sea. The Titanic waits in eternal darkness, its corridors echoing with memories that refuse to fade. And now, thanks to one drone's terrifying journey, we've seen that death